Hey there, Cheese Meisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff. I made my own coffee just in case. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my host.
I'm Leslie, and I do believe Judy said something about the best coffee in the world.
Right here. Yeah. So this week, we found the only line. You found the only line in the movie without the N-word in it. So good job.
Thank you.
It was a lot of work.
It was.
In this one to find an unsoiled sentence. We are watching this week The Hateful Eight, the 2015 Agatha Christie play, if it was really the eighth film by Quentin Tarantino masterpiece. Starring Samuel L. Jackson, Kurt Russell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, Bruce Dern, Channing Tatum for a little bit, and Walton Goggins. We are watching this in conjunction with Season 2, Episode 24, The Pit and the Pendulum, and spelling connection is from that episode. It is Walton Goggins himself, this time wearing much less blue.
I thought it was Walter Goggins.
Walton.
Oh, my bad.
Yep, Walton.
Listen, when you're with a Walter, they all sound the same.
Yeah, it's a lot of Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So, this is the first time you saw this one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's a big one. There's a lot going on in this movie.
I made the mistake of watching it in the morning because I just wanted to go ahead and make sure that I got it done.
Because it's 2 hours and 48 minutes long.
It's a very long movie, which, Tarantino films, I would say notoriously are.
Not all of them, but this one.
This one was a long one. Not a dull moment, just like, it's heavy,
Uh-huh.
And again, it was another one of those, it's Tarantino, and you feel safe to a point, and then all of a sudden, blood.
Right. Yeah.
Blood, in case no one heard that.
Vomiting.
And I was like, oh, I forgot what movie I'm watching. Oh my God. And then it just continues to escalate from there. And again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
that's all I got.
I saw this when this movie came out in 2015. They first released it as a road show where it only played in like 100 theaters around the country, and it played in 70 millimeter.
Okay.
Which is what he shot it in. So it's like it was very deliberate. And I got like a thing at the movie theater with it too, like a box. I don't even remember what the box was. I don't know if I still have it. But yeah, a buddy of mine and I drove way out to the burbs to check it out. And this was coming off, for me, my 2 least favorite Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
I'm not an Inglourious Basterds or Django Unchained fan. I'm just, the revenge porn of it is, I don't care.
Fair.
I don't like it that much. There are some folks whose favorite Tarantino movie is Inglourious Basterds, and there's not a close second. And whatever. To each their own. Not for me. So
I would agree.
Yeah. So I was a little bit like, well, we'll give this a shot because, Tarantino movies are worth seeing. Whether you love them or not, like them, whatever, they're worth seeing. I liked this one quite a bit. I was engaged. I was locked in the entire time to what was going on, trying to figure out what was happening in this one room in Minnie's haberdashery, and why everybody was there, and because it really does read like an Agatha Christie story,
Yeah.
or like Clue, right?
More fucked up.
Way more fucked up. But it's like, it's all these people who find themselves together locked in a room.
Yeah.
And so here, I guess it's sort of worth walking through a little bit what happens, broad strokes. Kurt Russell plays John Booth, the bounty hunter.
No, I thought it was John Ruth.
Ruth. It's John Ruth. Yeah, John Ruth, the hangman. And he is bringing in Daisy Domergue. He likes these names. And she's got a $10,000 bounty on her head, and this is post-Civil War, Wyoming. And on the way to Red Rock, they cross another bounty hunter's path, Samuel L. Jackson, General Marquise Warren. I think he's a general.
Anna Marquise.
I think so. Yeah. And Kurt Russell is suspicious. Just a bit suspicious of running across another bounty hunter on his path to collecting this $10,000 bounty. But he picks him up anyway after some rigmarole about where the guns are going to be and all of this sort of stuff. Lots of back and forth. Lots of shouting. Yeah, exactly. Lots of hands in the air.
Yeah.
High up in the air.
Your spoilers would get so tired. I couldn't help think about like with the costumes because obviously he's wearing a lot. You know, he's an older guy, and I was just like, man, my shoulders are tired looking at it. And like, you know, I climb, but
climb, motherfucker.
Yeah,
I'm a climber. So they continue on their way to Red Rocks until they find and they're being chased by a blizzard.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the big thing.
Mother Nature's her own character in this.
She really is. And so they run across Walton Goggins, another stranger on the road to Red Rocks while I've got this $10,000 bounty sitting in my car. This seems rather suspicious to me, says Kurt Russell's hangman with his mustache. But they pick him up anyway because this guy, Chris Maddox, is a former Confederate soldier who is soon to be the sheriff of Red Rocks. So you got the Marquise who fought on the side of the Union.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Maddox, who's a rebel. You've got Ruth, who is, do they ever say?
I think he was a Union guy.
I think he was too.
Considering how much reverence he had for the Lincoln letter.
That's very true. So in this stagecoach ride where Jennifer Jason Leigh is just eating up the scene, just with looking at people and winking at people and spitting on things, and I mean, she's nasty and awesome. Like,
yeah.
I'm not one who laughs at domestic violence, but when he hits her in the face and they fall out of the stagecoach, pulling Kurt Russell with her, I laughed. I just didn't see that coming.
I mean, you know, between that and then last night we also watched Beverly Hills Cop Axel F.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
And I mean, it's good. This isn't really a spoiler. There's just a moment where, like, you know, in their attempt to include more women, you know, on either side, women also get taken out. And I was like, well, with equality. And, you know, of course, in my mind, I'm like, to a woman? And then I went, this is what equality looks like. We also get beaten up and killed.
Right. And, you know, not for nothing, but Daisy Domergue is a piece of shit.
Oh, she's terrible.
Yeah. So kind of anything she gets is okay. Like,
yeah, no, she's
earned it. And as you say, there's a Lincoln letter. In his pocket, Samuel L. Jackson carries a letter from Abraham Lincoln, written to him, addressed to Marquis.
Yeah.
And Kurt Russell is enamored by this letter and has him show it, and Daisy spits on it, and that's when she gets sidewalloped out the door. And but anyway, the Lincoln letter comes back later.
Does it?
They know they're not going to make it to Red Rocks, so their last chance is to stop at Minnie's Haberdashery, which is a place where people stop on their way to Red Rocks. And the Marquise has been there a number of times, and it's a familiar place. It's a safe place. So it's a place where you know that you can hole up for a couple of days, survive this storm. No one's going to steal your bounty, theoretically. Although Ruth doesn't trust that for a second, ever. But when they get there, they find that Minnie and Sweet Bob are not there. Sweet Bob, Sweet Dave.
Sweet Dave.
Sweet Dave, because Bob's angry. Bob's the guy who greets them.
Great, in a way.
In a way. He puts the horses away, and they get inside, and you got to kick the door.
Oh, my God. No!
You two boards. One isn't enough.
Terrible.
I love that whole bit though, because it puts you right in this room with these people who you feel like have been there for a while. And they're ready to wait out the storm. And in that room, you find the hangman for Red Rocks. Coincidental. You don't find Minnie and Sweet Dave. You find another Confederate general, Sandy Smithers. Bruce Dern just sitting in a chair minding his own business.
Yeah.
You got Michael Madsen in the corner playing cards or some such. And you got Obi, who was driving the stagecoach. I know, poor Obi. Well, I was going to say poor everybody, but poor nobody.
No, Obi was the only not the only person I felt bad for. Spoiler alert, I felt really bad for Minnie and her group. Mm-hmm. But like for the first 2 hours of the film that I, before I saw Minnie and her group and what happened to them, I felt sorriest for Obi because Obi was probably the most trustworthy person in that group.
Right, as far as we know.
And they keep sending him out into the freezing cold.
That's true. Yeah. So everybody in there is a scoundrel of some sort. We can just kind of tell, even though one of them's the hangman, and he's above the law. Like he's the dispassionate deliverer of justice. Mm-hmm. And without him, what you have, according to him, is frontier justice or vengeance. Mm-hmm. And what we get over the course of the first 2 hours is Ruth trying to protect anyone from getting to Daisy, because this is his money, and he's again, his guard is up the whole time. He's sufficiently paranoid, but he's inaccurately paranoid, which is, his fault.
His demise.
To his demise. Somebody poisons the coffee, and Obi and Ruth are the ones who drink it, and moments later vomit blood for about 3 minutes straight. Oh my God. In a very unpleasant scene. And that's when the movie gets violent.
Yeah. Like, more so. Obviously, we'd had, like, some... But up until now, it's been, as horrible as it sounds to say, it's been mostly comical.
Yeah, exactly. And then we find out what's really going on, which is that there were 4 people who showed up at Minnie's haberdashery earlier that morning. There was the hangman, there was the Michael Madsen, there was
Bob,
and there was, under the floorboards, the nutsack
Magic
shooting
Mike.
Channing Tatum. That's right. And they killed Minnie and Sweet Dave and everybody who happened to be there. And they set a trap because Magic Mike is Daisy Domergue's brother and the leader of the gang. And he nutshot Sam Jackson and comes up but not before Bob plays Silent Night while Sam Jackson gives the most disturbing monologue about what he did to Sandy Smithers' son.
Oh my God.
Strictly because he was Sandy Smithers' son. Which is brutal. The worst thing your boy ever did was told me you were his dad.
That monologue might also be really when the shift in the mood changed. Because obviously it's tense, but you get the feeling that, like, okay, it's tense because of we don't trust each other, because we've got bounty hunters here, we don't know each other. Also, the Civil War is over, the country is still under the guise that it's healing.
Right. No. As seen by the way these folks interact with one another. They have not been able to put away, they haven't put aside that animosity of the war. There is still, like, Mannix was famous for his family name in the actions they took during the Civil War. The Marquis is also famous for what he did during the war as what did he start out? He started out a freed. Was he a freed slave, or was he just a northerner who was free?
I think he was a northerner who was free.
Yeah, and then he came down to fight the war and kill as many Rebs as possible, including burning down an entire prison so he could escape, which also happened to kill a whole bunch of Confederate prisoners as well. But he doesn't care. Union, yeah, right, both. Yeah. But killing the Rebs is fine. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so he's famous for the horrible shit he did. And Sandy Smithers is famous for the horrible shit he did as a Confederate general. And what you find the more time they spend together is that there's more connections between some of these folks than lays on the surface. Mm-hmm. And you're always, from the moment you meet Marquis, you are suspicious of everyone's motives and of what they tell you about themselves.
Yes.
Right?
Very much like Clue.
Yeah. So like you're watching this movie and you're like, okay. And it's like any other Agatha Christie story, murder mystery, whatever. You got to figure out who's telling a lie and what lie they're telling and why they're telling it. And you're wrong about all of them. Like, there's no way you guess this shit. Like, it's, it's sufficiently confused.
Communism is a red herring.
It really, yes, exactly. So is the South, apparently. Because it wasn't about that.
Confederacy is a red herring.
Yeah. The only part that was about, like, it was a total accident that Sandy Smithers happened to be there. Uh-huh. This wasn't about the Union versus the Confederacy. But there was personal animosity, between the people involved because of being on different sides of the war. But none of that was what mattered. What mattered was that the hangman had got hold of Daisy Domergue and her brother was gonna get her out.
Yeah.
And so he gets there and sets this up and is ready. Now, he didn't expect two other bounty hunter, a bounty hunter and a sheriff, to walk in the door. And so that ended up foiling his plans. But this is a intricately constructed escape, like it's a jailbreak.
Yeah.
That's much more subtle than burning the whole place to the ground.
Yeah.
So I guess I should probably ask if you liked this movie.
Yes. I mean, again, it's complicated to answer how you like something that is so disturbing.
Yeah.
I made sure to, like, a lot of times when I watch stuff, I like to, cross stitch, or like, I need to do things.
Sure.
And this, I knew I couldn't do anything other than like stretch, because you can still like watch things and stretch and focus. Mm-hmm. Again, I liked it. It was, haunting. It was very entertaining. Like, it's a very cool story, to say the least, because like you said, it's very intricately woven. Mm-hmm. And like, what's fun about Tarantino are his stylistic choices.
Yeah.
Because it's got that old Western feel. It's got kind of the pulpy feel to it as well, and how he writes language, outside of putting in words that cause us great discomfort. Like, his dialogue is very entertaining. It's interesting.
I would say the discomfort is very much on purpose.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything he does, again, it's the Banksy quote, like, art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Yeah.
And he uses the N-word the way he uses violence. Mm-hmm. Like, it is over the top to the point of being borderline comical.
Yeah.
Like the blood in this and Django and Inglourious Bastards and Kill Bill, it like the violence is so over the top that like it's not even violence anymore. It's Tom and Jerry with it's itchy and scratchy. Like that's Tarantino loves cartoon violence like itchy and scratchy. Like that's really what you see. And I loved the one room of it all.
Me too.
That you put everybody in this tiny space and you shoot the whole movie in this one room, and it doesn't. To me, it never feels claustrophobic, which it could in a situation like this, especially when they can't go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or if they do, they got to like follow the rope to get to the, to the barn or to the outhouse.
Yeah.
And if you go out the front door, you got to nail the damn thing shut again. So like, they're very literally trapped in this place.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't feel like they're on top of each other, because there's like within it, there's the set, there's the kitchen set, and then there's the stove set where the coffee is. There's the couch in front of the fireplace set. There's the area between that and the door. And then there's the stuff over here, stage left, which is like the card table that Madsen was sitting at and the piano and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can put different groups of people in these different places in the room and continue to move the story and reveal things about the characters themselves, things that they may not have wanted to tell you, And so it just, the conversations and the reveals continue to propel the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel 248, and when I saw it in the theater, it had like an overture and an intermission, and like, yeah, it was longer.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool. Yeah. It was longer when I saw it than when I saw it here. And it was no more story. I don't think, just musical pieces at the beginning and in the middle. Yeah, it was a fun experience. I was very happy that I did it, even though it involved like suburban bullshit. Yeah. So I texted you at one point to listen to the Doors song 5 to 1. Did you listen to it?
No, I listened to a song for later, and I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. So since we just watched the Doors last week, it struck me as entertaining that literally everybody in this movie dies.
Yeah. And
the Doors song 5 to 1, the lyric is 5 to 1, 1 in 5, no one here gets out alive. And I was like, we just watched that. And now we're watching it again. So Jim Morrison knew something. So like, this is constructed like an Agatha Christie, like Clue, like one of those things where you don't even know what the crime is until people start vomiting blood. But then it's like trying to figure out what led to that moment. So he puts the murder way at the end, not at the end, but 2 hours and 48 minutes. At the 2 hour mark is when the murder happens. And that's one of the things I love about Tarantino stuff, is how he plays with chronology and moves things around in the story to tell it in a different way. But like, some of like, that's sort of the only part of that he does that with here. He moves the murder way back, but you've got the tension this whole time, and you've got the learning who the characters are this whole time, and what they have to do with each other. And that Sam Jackson is trying to kind of figure out what's going on here. He's like he's the most correctly suspicious of everyone. And because he knows that Minnie's haberdashery doesn't work like this. There's something off here. And so I guess the initial mystery is, where's Minnie and Sweet Dave? But they don't spend a whole lot of time talking about that. But Marquise is thinking about it.
You calling me a liar?
Not yet. Not yet. But I mean, she took that sign down because Minnie started letting in dogs. So
that line.
I know that line made me laugh too. That was really funny. Yeah, look, a lot of things change in this world. Minnie still doesn't like Mexicans, and that is a fact. So I don't know what you're doing here, Bob.
She was never hostile to him, but right. Maybe they didn't have enough interaction, or maybe she.
Did she even see him?
She saw him.
I couldn't remember.
He was in there. They just didn't really have much interaction, so maybe it was, kind of like the polite Southern way of not liking someone. Like,
yeah, because he just said Bob. Like when she asked his name, he just said Bob.
Yeah,
and he's all, bundled up and everything. Like he's covered up the whole movie. You can't even really tell who the actor is. And he's great, by the way, in this movie. And there was also a show called The Bridge that he was on that I really liked quite a bit. About, I don't know, roughly around the time this came out, maybe just a little bit before. But so we've got this, like what happened to them, that Marquise is trying to sort of piece together. But it's not the topmost thing he's doing. Like he's just sort of trying to figure out the room because he knows the general. Mm-hmm. Sitting in the chair. He doesn't get into it right away, but he knows that guy quite well. Doesn't expect to know everybody else in the room, but it does seem coincidental, right?
Yeah.
That we picked up the sheriff on the way in, and here we find the hangman and 2 bounty hunters. And what's going on here? This seems a little bit contrived. Mm-hmm. And it is, but not in the way he thinks it is.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the way he thinks it is. And, Tarantino shifts time stuff around quite a bit in his movies. But he doesn't really do that here in comparison to other murder mysteries. Because there's always that bit at the end where the detective brings everybody together and explains how everything happened through a series of flashbacks.
You had a letter, and 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 you had a letter.
Get on with it. Yeah, exactly. And that's what they do when they go to Act 4, the Four Strangers, or whatever that act is called, where they show what happened earlier in the day. And it feels like a Tarantino move, but it's not. It's a murder mystery move.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains too. We have a narrator in that moment. All of a sudden,
after that, we have a narrator.
Oh,
when they come, yeah. But he does that too at the third act of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
Right. Like when they come back from Italy, suddenly Kurt Russell is doing narration. In Once Upon a Time, and in this, it's Tarantino himself doing the narration.
Oh, okay.
Laying out. Like the stuff about the coffee, what you didn't see was that this was happening over here, and there's only one person who saw who it was, and it was Daisy. And that it's like a third mystery that, like, this movie like compounds mysteries. It gives you the what happened to Minnie and Sweet Dave.
Yeah.
It gives you the what's going on with the bounty hunters and trying to, like all the stuff that Ruth is nervous about, paranoid about. And then it gives you the who poisoned the coffee. And the real Tarantino twist on this is that Hercule Poirot does not stand up and tell everybody what happened and then walk out of the door. Poirot dies too. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody fucking dies in this movie. And that's the thing that I think is so interesting about it.
Yeah. And yeah, I faced a similar insecurity with this movie, a little less than I did with The Doors, but it's one of those that I knew was going to sit with me a minute, and I didn't know how I was going to talk about it. Because yeah, well, and also I feel like anything I could possibly offer is not going to be new.
Right. Doesn't have to be.
But it makes sense that they all die. Because I'm not sure that's something I would want to survive,
There's that. there's also
what is there to gain from surviving this?
from surviving that, yeah.
You
and
know,
you're probably not going to make it through the blizzard anyhow.
they're lucky they got the answers, you know? Most people don't get that. So in a way, like, knowing is the happy ending, you know?
Right. But here's the thing. There's not supposed to be a happy ending to this.
Well, of course not, but like knowing is the happiest you're gonna get. Or
Right.
like that's what I think this is where I think there can be different versions of happy endings, and I'm sure Tarantino would hate this analysis, but never gonna meet him. Who cares? Like, knowledge is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And again, getting to know how a mystery ends, like, that's the happy ending of a mystery. Something awful still happened, you know, unless it's Nancy Drew or the Boxcar Children, like, most likely someone died, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Usually in those, it's just something got stolen or we can't find the will.
Right, exactly.
These evil grandchildren are going to take this old man's place and he's going to be miserable. You know?
Yeah. So, you know, I hit that same thing that you hit when you get to the end of some of these movies and you're like, why was that what happened in this movie? Right? Why did everybody die? And because that was very much on purpose, right? Like, the point of this movie was, let's bring these people together and kill them all. Right? And tell the story of why they're going to die and why they got to die. Because not everybody deserves hanging, but those that deserve hanging need to hang.
Mean bastards.
Yeah, mean bastards need to hang. And mean bastards and Hateful Eight are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
He tells you in the title of the movie that what this is 8 awful people. They're all terrible. They're brought to this place by circumstance. Some of it is contrived of their own making, but some of it's accidental, right? Like, Bruce Dern is not part of the plan. And as it turns out, Marquise and Mannix are not part of the plan either. They just happen to be there. Now, why did they happen to be there? I think Tarantino tells us with the opening shot of the movie. Jesus on the cross. This is spiritual retribution. This is God striking down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger. Like, he has brought all of these people together and ensured that they're going to be there by sending a blizzard. Amazing. He has trapped these fuckers in this room, and we're just going to wait until they take care of it for us. Because they're gonna. And they all got it coming. And yeah, I mean, this is a movie where everyone needed to die.
I was just thinking, like, I'm not going to say they all deserve to die, but we didn't need them to live.
No, but the story is they deserve to die, and we're continually told all of the things that they've done.
Yeah.
That are so horrible.
Other than Obi, we don't know anything awful that Obi did. So, you know.
That's the thing with God's great vengeance and furious anger, is that it takes out the innocent as well. Like, I don't think Minnie and Sweet Dave did anything to anybody. I don't think that the lady who worked there that sold the peppermint sticks 5 for a nickel did anything to anybody.
Nope.
I don't think Obi did anything to anybody. But you know what? We're taking them all out. Yeah. Because these 8 people, 9, if you count, and I guess Obi's not a Hateful Eight, but Channing Tatum is. We just don't know he's there. Yeah. So that's that misdirect. Like, you think you got all 8 of them because Obi's hanging around.
You forget there's a basement.
Yeah. How would you know that?
Exactly.
So, yeah, to me, this feels like a story of spiritual retribution, which is not an unfamiliar theme, as I've, quoted the Bible passage from Pulp Fiction 3 times in the last 5 minutes. It is. That's what this is, and he tells us at the beginning of the movie. Just like he told us Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a fairy tale by naming it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you the title, and he shows you Jesus right up front.
Yep.
And then he proceeds to let Jesus just take care of it.
It's wild.
Yeah, which is great. Like, that's part of the reason I think this movie is so good, is because you're like, oh, that's what he's doing there. And it's like, because like otherwise it seems it's a gratuitous twist to have even the detective who solves the mystery get murdered.
I just had a thought too. I think it's uncomfortable for me because, obviously we all love seeing people get what they deserve. Like, that's
Right.
a very human thing. Mm-hmm. Everyone keeps touting, like, eat the rich and all that jazz.
Right.
But I'm realizing I'm so uncomfortable watching people get what they deserve. Like, I could not have been one of those people back in the Middle Ages going to a hanging.
Right. Sure. Middle Ages, shit. You wouldn't have been one of the people in Red Rock who are there to watch the hanging that are necessary to turn that from frontier justice into actual justice. Like,
it is easier for me to read about that kind of thing or hear about it. It is a whole other thing to watch it. And I don't think people acknowledge that humanity enough within them. Like, yeah, we all want these horrible things to happen. It's a whole lot different when you're watching it, or, God forbid, if you end up living it.
Right. Yeah. And even if, again, to your earlier point of like, to what end, it, like, what good is surviving this?
Yeah.
Like, even if you survive this, unless you're Obi, you can't get the bounties to Red Rock because you can't control a 6-horse team.
No.
Right. The only Judy who could do that was the Judy that got shot at the, from Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like Judy. I wanted more Judy.
I did too. And my God, I wish I had like a hat or something, because there have been multiple times I've wanted to take my hat off to people to acknowledge their death.
You have bunny ears.
They're not. They're cat ears.
Oh, they're cat ears. I like calling them bunny ears, even though
no.
It'd be funny if they were bunny. I like them as cat ears, though.
Implication entirely.
I guess that's true. I don't know. They're both about pussy.
Okay, well, there's a different outfit I would need to wear if they were bunny ears.
That's true. And we have to have a tail. Little fluffy white tail. Mm-hmm. Yep. Nothing wrong with those. That presentation.
It's all above board.
Yeah, nothing. No problems there. Do you want to have some adventures in intimacy?
I do, because I have kind of a different take on things today, or different things. So something I thought about while watching this, because there's not a lot of intimacy. There is an obvious moment that we'll get to, but something that first hit me as I'm watching this was, in intimacy workshops, a lot we talk about, adding helpful tools to give the actors during heightened moments, either with intimacy or, say, just any heightened moments. And there are a lot of those in this. Yeah. I mean, we have racism on full display. We have people. Lots of it. We have people who were on either side of a war and clearly hate each other. And I was thinking the whole time about how, granted, these actors have worked with Tarantino before. They have worked for a long time in this business before a lot of these tools I'm going to mention were, like, I would say, more out there, or at least more readily available. But I thought, what are they doing to take care of themselves between takes? Because, and maybe they don't need any self-care. I doubt that. Right. But maybe they don't need the self-care I think that they're going to need. But, I don't think it would be easy for Samuel L. Jackson to do roles like this. Like, what does he do to take care of himself? I would hope he's doing something because he's had a long career. How do the actors take care of themselves who are having to be abusive? How do the actors or how does, Janet Leigh take care of herself?
Jennifer Jason Leigh, you had it.
Oh, okay. How does she take care of herself? Like, do they take a moment to decompress between shots? I would hope so.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to stay in the moment, like, if you want to stay focused, that's one thing. If you're wanting to stay in character between these shots, that's disturbing and upsetting to me. But again, to each their own. I don't want to work with you. But go ahead.
I don't know if anyone in this movie is known for that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I was like, the only one I could think of who I thought might be, but I just think he's not. It would be Tim Roth. But if he wanted to play that hangman guy all day long, knock yourself out. You know what I mean? That's the only one that would be like, that'd be okay. If I had to deal with that guy being method all day long, at least he's like this like proper gentleman who upholds the law. Even though it's bullshit. Well, and he's not screaming the N-word at people.
I can't remember. Is that his dialect?
No, he's English. He's an Englishman.
Oh, okay.
Kind of, yeah. Not his real. I don't know. Yeah, it's just whatever.
Which there are a variety of dialects over there. So if that was something you need to keep up throughout the day, fine. But yeah, I was just thinking about like what I would tell my actors. Having to, relate to each other and connect with each other. I would be like, hey, I'm going to offer you all these tools. Such as tapping in and tapping out, which is, you can do something as simple as like a high five, double high five, or something with your scene partners or partner before you start to be like, okay, we're in character mode. And then once it's done, tap out.
Yeah, different. I like that.
Yeah. I love it. Again, it's just the little things to tell your brain, because people who aren't in this I don't think fully comprehend the mindfuckery of this.
Yeah.
Like when I'm playing patient for medical students, a lot of times I have to be doubled over in pain.
Right.
And I have to, or I'm conveying something terrible that is happening. And, once it's done, I have to like unfurl my body.
Right.
And like breathe in these areas, remind my body, you are not going through this thing. You are okay. Yeah, and much like these actors or any actors telling this story would need to remind themselves, you're not living this. It's fine. You are okay. You are telling someone else's story. So another tool that I offer actors is at the end of the day is to de-roll, which is, finding a habit or find a process for you to like take the character off and leave them there instead of taking them home. And, I like to think of it as mindful undressing for the day. Because like, obviously you take your costume off, but like I had a show where I had to cover myself in some self-harm marks and I stupidly did not remove those marks when I left the show. I would go home and sometimes, again, this is going to make me sound gross. Sometimes I showered immediately and took them off. Other times I was too tired and like, that's messed up. You should immediately take that off because that kind of shit sticks with you and makes it very hard for you to remind yourself, I am not this person.
Yeah. If you were Jennifer Jason Leigh and you walked around with that blood mask and those busted out teeth, like when you weren't on set, that would not have been a good like emotional to stay in.
You're gonna be so unhappy.
Right. You're
gonna be so cranky, and parts of that character will seep in, and that's not healthy.
To quote the movie, nobody said this needed to be easy.
Yeah.
Well, nobody said it had to be this damn hard either. So
exactly. Now to the, to the intimate moment I was not expecting. We get violent intimacy, and it's male on male, which we don't get a lot of in Hollywood because Hollywood is homophobic.
And just real quick, this is also needle drop for us, so please continue, because while this was happening, like Silent Night was being played.
And you are lulled into this false sense of security, but at the same time feeling like something. I mean, Silent Night could easily be a haunting Christmas carol, Yeah. I mean, there's a movie called Violent Night, for crying out loud. Like, play on words. So we have male nudity.
Yep.
And he's being tortured in the way that he's being forced to walk nude in a frozen tundra.
Yep.
Basically. For hours. And two things. So as I'm watching this, often my thought is, because so often male genitalia prosthetics are used, and I was wondering if this is a situation where that would be used, because I thought, well, that's kind of unfair. Women have to do full frontal nudity all the time, and we don't get offered prosthetics for our torso. Although you do get stand-ins sometimes. Some people do use a stand-in for, back nudity or front. In the case of the actress who played Cersei Lannister was pregnant when she had to walk the nude through King's Landing.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously they had to use a stand-in there because Cersei wasn't pregnant.
Gotcha.
But then I read online that, so apparently a male prosthetic only needs to be used when the penis has to be functional.
Okay. So floppy wieners are fine, but if it's not floppy, then it better be fake.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, and also it can be floppy, but say it's floppy on purpose, or it's being used to pee.
Sure.
Then that, or if the actor specifies look, I know that I'm just standing being nude in this scene, I still don't want to show it, then they would use a prosthetic. But otherwise, most likely in this case, it was probably all this man. So I thought that was really interesting, because that's just, again, one of those areas that I haven't had to choreograph such a moment. And okay.
There's not a lot of on-camera dinguses.
No. And I've debated whether or not to go into that rant. I'm sure there will be another movie where it's worth going into, but I don't know if today's that day.
Well, this is 2 dingus movies in a row.
That's true.
Because the old Indian at the end of the movie in the hallway, when he turns and faces the camera, is naked. So not even Jim Morrison's 2-finger wiener.
Yeah. The article I was reading earlier was talking about how we're starting to see more male nudity.
More dingus. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, because they need to start evening out the playing field. Again, like we noted in The Doors. So, I mean, there's no comparison. There's one dong for every 10 tits. It's like
if it was ice cream versus condoms, but no one ever had ice cream.
Yeah, and of course too, it's very different for men. I mean, obviously women are judged whether or not they do it, and then they're judged for any number of weird thing about what their natural body looks like. Mm-hmm. Men do have to deal with something different, because for some reason your masculinity gets called into question if depending on size. And that's stupid, because just like boobs and any body part, there are a variety of sizes, and it means nothing.
There you go.
Is the clear thing. It means nothing. But because of male insecurity and because we are a long way from overthrowing the patriarchy and toxic masculinity and all that jazz, men have the opportunity to wear a phallus if they don't feel comfortable showing their member on screen. Mm-hmm. And that's valid. I just wish women were given the same options.
Yeah.
Or the same consideration. Like, people are going to be more understanding to a male actor who is like, no, I want to use a phallus, or I want to use a dildo. Whereas a woman who's like, well, I'd really prefer to use a stand-in for this. Now we've got to audition someone.
Right.
Now we've got to find stand-ins. I'm exaggerating. I haven't been through this, but this is what I imagine. And then I also, like, we've read articles. Stories have come out. Right. We went through a fucking Me Too movement, for crying out loud. Like, none of this is news. And I don't think I'm, being off base in my assumptions. Which is a weird segue into the male violence of this, which I have to say. So, again, we don't see anything. We don't see any nudity from Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
But it's haunting enough just seeing his hand on the man's head and the motion. Like, very well shot, very well done. And again, not too much, because the story, I mean, they could have just left it at the story. You wouldn't have even need to show anything. But it's Tarantino, and not to say that I don't know if, no, he's definitely gratuitous. We'll just leave it at that. Gratuitous and all things horrifying.
I also think maybe there's a reason you show it, in that, like, there's a possibility when you watch this movie to think that Sam Jackson is the good guy. Right? Because he's centered in that role of, like, he's Columbo. He's kind of trying to figure out what's happening here. And it from the start. And he told the story earlier of the horrible thing he did, burning down the prison that killed all those people. They didn't show that. There's still, even though that story, war is hell, et cetera, there's still a way to think of him as a good guy. You need to know how horrible he is in order for him to earn the death he's got coming.
Well, and the fact too that his nuts get shot off.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I won't say the thing that came into my head. But yeah, it's a pretty intense, to say the least. It's a pretty intense monologue. It's intense to watch. Again, this man being walked across a frozen tundra and then being forced to...
for a blanket.
Yeah.
That he never got.
Yeah.
And all of that is horrible. But the worst part is, the reason I did that is because he was your kid.
Yeah.
And your actions brought that on him. And then he shoots him. So he has to also know why all of these bad things are happening and why I'm killing you.
Yeah.
Everybody in this movie gets to know why they died. At least the bad people. Like, they get to, they understand why they died. I don't think Obi gets it, but he's not a bad person. And Minnie and Sweet Dave, they don't get it, but they're not bad people either. All the people who had it coming, they get to know why it's coming. And that way they know, and we know, that it was okay. That they were, that Bob had his face blown off.
It's almost like when people are executed and they're being read their crimes.
Yeah. Yes.
Very interesting.
This is what justifies everything you see here.
Yeah.
Is they all had it coming. All right. So what else time? Yeah. What do you? Oh, you got more intimacy?
No, I had one more like needle drop thing that I found really
tell me.
interesting. Well, because after she gets elbowed in the face,
Yeah.
like within the first 30 minutes, she has this moment where she this also might be the moment where she winks
Yeah.
at the marquee.
Big black eye.
Oh yeah. And like, she's been elbowed, beaten up already a lot in front of the camera, and then she looks at him and then looks out the window and has this very intriguing look on her face, like, it's fine, I'm gonna win in the end. And Apple Blossom, I think this is where Apple Blossom by the White Stripes plays.
Oh, okay.
And I found it intriguing, and I didn't really know the song, so I was listening to it earlier, and some of the lyrics, just so people know, I will come and rescue you. Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And then lots of girls walk around in tears, but that's not for you.
Interesting.
I know. And I was like,
that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. I didn't recognize that song. But that's funny. He doesn't do things by accident, Tarantino.
And it's great. I love it. Yeah. I love when people think through the music. Mm-hmm. I want everything to have meaning,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of what, like, when her expression in The Stagecoach is never one of someone who is concerned that they're on their way to the rope.
Nope.
Like, she's not worried about it.
Nope.
And so that's one of the things for What Else Time for me is the idea of like, who's reading the situation correctly here. Yeah, like throughout the whole movie, because like she knows that something's going to happen. Someone's going to try to rescue her. And she mistakenly believes that that's going to save her.
Yeah.
Marquise knows that something funky's going on here. But he thinks he can figure it out and control the situation enough to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
John Ruth is very paranoid, but he's not paranoid of the right people for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And he's too trusting. Like, he believes the story of the Lincoln letter.
Yep.
Even though every time it comes up, someone else says, you have a letter from Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States, like, wrote you a letter.
Yeah.
And everybody just kind of accepts it except for Mannix, who is like, Mannix is the best at calling accurate bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the, like, he knows when someone is just lying their asses off.
I guess that's why you got the job of sheriff.
I guess, like, he's not great at acting on it, and at the end, he's not even worried about people lying. He's worried that someone tried to kill him, and it's a personal affront.
Mm-hmm.
That someone tried to poison him. But he knows he's spotting bullshit left and right in this room.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, none of it matters. It doesn't matter who knows what, who is smart enough. When you got it coming, you got it coming.
Uh-huh.
And it's coming. But you spend the whole time trying to and it's the same for the audience. Like, you spend the whole time trying to figure out where who's telling a lie here, because you know that people are misrepresenting themselves left and right. So what's really true here? And what you find out is what is true, but everybody dies anyway. Like, that's where this was headed. The whole time, everyone was going to end up dead.
I had a couple things for What Else.
All right.
Because I was distracted by the clean teeth. And that made me think a lot about where to draw the line on period accuracy.
Sure.
Because while I love how we're able to make things more and more period accurate, some of the things that either I learn about in retrospect or think about later, I realize, you know what? This is where it's fine because, obviously teeth probably would not have been that white or that straight.
Right. Yeah.
But to put makeup on teeth has got to be annoying as hell. Not to mention eating with, either with like having to put in teeth like dentures or something. That's got to be annoying as hell and probably not even worth it because also on some level too, as the viewer, like what is one of the first turnoffs in meeting someone new is like if they don't have great teeth, you're like, oh.
Right.
So that kind of thing would be unnecessarily distracting. And because at first I was like, man, these teeth are too clean. And then I went, no, I'm okay with it. Like, there's there are more important things here than what's happening between you and me, Harry. I use that line a lot.
Nice.
Snaps for her, anyone gets it. Another thing I thought about in this was, obviously there's a lot of fight choreography in this, but my God, there's so much vomiting on people.
Oh my God, vomit.
Blood being projectile onto people. And I thought, hopefully that would need to be in the script to read about and to sign off on.
Yes.
But believe me, there are people who would think like, well, why wouldn't you be okay? You're an actor. You've got to be okay with everything. No, I do not. I have come on here and said, there's not enough money you could pay me to put a tarantula on my face.
Right.
And,
but we can hit you with a crowbar in the ribs and you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, got it. Sometimes I throw myself down just for fun.
Just for fun. But yeah, I would be really reticent to have people vomit on me.
Right.
Especially bloody vomit, like.
That is the roughest moment in a movie full of rough moments is when he's on top of her and he vomits on her face.
Oh my God.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
Even though they've only been holding it in their mouth for a little bit, it's still like.
It was never in his mouth. That was. Because you didn't see it come out of his mouth.
Oh.
You saw, I think the shot you see is just it hitting her. So that was just dumb stuff.
Oh, well, I guess you see it come from his mouth first, and then you see the reaction shot. Okay, that I will accept.
Yeah.
Because
no way.
Otherwise, you're going to need to go to the dentist the day before.
Yeah, no, they're not.
I'm going to need to see you gargle half a gallon of mouthwash.
Right.
And you know what? Then
they're not.
Exactly. They're going to go, Leslie, we're just going to shoot him vomiting and then you reacting to it. I'll be like, oh, okay. I didn't need to come on that strong. Sorry.
Nope. It's
okay. You say that, but listen, I've been at an audition where I asked my scene partner, I said, oh, hey, are you okay with doing this is before all of my IC training and all that, before Me Too movement and things were starting to change. I asked a scene partner for Barefoot in the Park, are you okay with doing the kiss in the scene? I'm not exaggerating when I reenact this. I'd have sex on stage. I don't care.
There you go.
So you say it's just a movie. To some people, this is who I am now, baby.
Sure, I get that. I'm just saying, like, that it's a movie in that, like, they weren't in space in Star Wars either. Like they make you believe things by showing you the things they want you to see.
And yet they make the stupid call to not let Carrie Fisher wear a bra because there are no bras in space. Fuck you.
As far as I know, that's true. When were you in space? I wasn't. I don't know. You don't need them because there's no gravity pulling your boobs down. They sort of they're good.
I'm just saying, you know that, and I know that, but the general doesn't know that. At least he won't for another hour and a half.
That's true. That's very true. All right. So is this anybody's defining role? because there are a lot of people in here. And it's a little bit, I agree, this isn't anybody's defining role. But what's interesting to me about this is how it's kind of the Tarantino repertory company.
Oh, yeah.
And not everybody in this isn't stuff he's done before. Like, I don't think Jennifer Jason Leigh had done anything with him before.
No.
And this might have been the first Bruce Dern, but it wasn't the last because he's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be the only Channing Tatum and Walton Goggins, but it is Sam Jackson, Kurt Russell, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen. Like, these are all the people, like, not all, but they're people that he brings back.
Mm-hmm.
And like, to bring them all back together for a one-room play is kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know? Even though it's a fucked up, like, morality tale where all the bad guys get it in the end at their hands of each other.
But we love those kinds of plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just think this movie's super effective. I like it quite a bit. I didn't enjoy it any less this time around.
Nice.
I think this is maybe the third time I'd seen it, maybe fourth. I saw it in the theater. Laura and I watched it, and then we watched it again the other night for this. So third or fourth time.
Did the 13-year-old join you?
He did.
Oh, wow. How do you take it?
I mean, he plays on his Switch a lot, like while movies are on. So, you know, he definitely noticed the copious amounts of N-word and was like, yeesh. And I'm like, yeah, yeesh. Yeah, like, this is, you know, like, this is. Yeah. I think some of the violence he didn't see because he wasn't paying attention. You know, which is fine. Like, that's why I don't bristle too much at him playing a video game, because I'm like, he's not going to be looking up during every part of this movie.
Yeah.
So,
bless
and you know,
youth.
and you know, we sort of talked about the you know how I didn't think of that it was like Clue until this morning, but like how it was like those mysteries, and he's like, this is a Western and a mystery, and those are two things I don't like.
Oh, what? Come on.
Yeah, he's like, but this wasn't. He said this wasn't. He's like, this was interesting. I think he liked it well enough, but I don't think it's a movie he's going to go back and choose to watch on his own.
All right.
At least not right now.
Sure.
Which is totally fine. All right. Do you have any other what else's?
I do not.
All right. What is this the EST of?
This is the coldest Tarantino film.
It's pretty damn cold.
My God.
Yeah.
That was another thing I thought about too. You can't help but wonder, like, okay, did they make all this snow, or did they find some place that was snowy and then create the blizzard on top of it? Because
I think a lot of VFX.
Okay, because again, we have ways to do all this more easily than we used to. Yeah, like there are a lot of easier ways to do all this now, but I mean, whatever. I'm going to think of it. The Revenant. I mean, they obviously shot that in the frozen tundra because Leo said in his acceptance speech, like, hey, we actually had a really hard time finding all the snow that we needed.
But that was outside. Like, I think 90% of this movie was shot on a soundstage. Like,
true.
It's just a set. And, you know, they might have done some exteriors on a ranch somewhere. And I mean, they must have done some amount of actual physical snow for the scenes where they're walking.
Yeah.
Trudging through it. But that's like 2 scenes.
Because at some point...
That's a day's work.
Like, I wonder what is more expensive, you know, finding a location that has that much snow or building that much snow, because...
It's a lot of snow.
It's a lot of fucking snow!
Yeah.
And when it's cheaply done, it looks really bad. So you don't want that.
No, and this doesn't take
you. Would freeze people.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I think. Let's see. What is this the EST of for me? I think it's the most contained Tarantino movie. You know, it's just. There's something about it being a one-room play that is fascinating to me. For a guy who does so much stuff that is outside, all over the place, this you're going from here to here. There's car, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they're driving a lot. Like that is not a contained situation. It is out in everywhere.
Kill Bill is everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. So to have this much, like to squeeze this much violence into this small of a space is pretty impressive.
Yeah. One of my favorite kind of story genres. Like I love when things take place either at like a short amount of time or in contained space. I think that's usually together,
Right. Yeah. So is this, because we didn't talk about him very much. What is your experience of Walton Goggins prior to this? Is it just that episode of 90210 where he wears the blue suit and is a big cheese ball?
I did start watching Vice once. Is it Vice or Vice Principal?
Vice Principal. Yeah.
Yeah, I did start watching that and then it didn't grab me, so I had seen him in that. He's definitely just someone that I had seen like, oh, there's that guy. But no, I would say the 90210 episode in this are my it's like Richard Roundtree and being Mr. Ash.
Yeah, positively finger popping.
Even though he is Shaft, and I am so sorry to everyone that I have offended.
No, I love it. That's the best. Walton Goggins is one of those actors that if he shows up in something, I'm going to give it a look.
Okay.
Because he's fucking great. Like, he's so good in The Shield. He's so good in Justified. I feel like he elevates the stuff he's in. He's just that good. And I'm even going to watch Fallout at some point, the show where he has no nose. Even though it's based on a video game I've never played and don't have any interest in playing. Yeah. But Walton Goggins is enough to get me in the door on just about anything. He's
getting work.
Yeah, and he's that good. Like I just like when I saw Tarantino put him in something, I'm like, perfect. More of that.
Whereas like, because I love when people, I love when the draw of someone is for a good reason. Whereas like when I saw Channing Tatum in the credits, I was like, oh, this was when he was trending. Which is not to say he's not good. I don't know. I haven't, he's not someone that I've been interested in watching, but I mean, he's a hard worker. He seems like a decent person. Like that's really all I care about in my actors.
I'll say this, because Channing Tatum, I mean, Magic Mike was better than I like expected it to be. Like I was like, oh, there's just the movie about male strippers. Okay, fine. But I watched it and I was like, you haven't seen it? It's pretty good. I don't know if I've seen any of the sequels or not. But here's what I'll say about Channing Tatum. I saw the ads for the 21 Jump Street movie. And I posted on Facebook, this makes me want to go back and stop Johnny Depp from having a career. Because I don't want him to have made the TV show that made this movie necessary. Because this looks fucking stupid. That movie is so funny. It like I couldn't have been more wrong about 21 Jump Street. It was, I watched that movie and I went, all right, my bad. Like, you guys nailed it. You nailed it. This is exactly what this movie should have been. So he gets a little bit of whatever for me for how wrong I was about 21 Jump Street.
All right.
I'm just going to assume I'm probably a little bit wrong about Channing Tatum's roles before I see them.
Yeah. And, again, he's talented. I just haven't seen him in the thing yet that makes me look at him the same way other people do.
Sure.
And that's okay. Not every
You haven't seen him be a male stripper.
I don't like beefcakes. We've talked about this. I have an anxiety about being...
It's true. And I get it. It's limiting for you, and I understand. No, I get it. I get it.
Finish the sentence. It's in the most innocent of ways, except it's not innocent at all.
Smoosh.
Oh my god. Ugh. Scares me.
Yeah, you want to be a puddle, but for a different reason.
Yeah. I like to breathe.
Yeah, I get it. I think that we have once again proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling. Even the Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight.
That's right.
Our second time.
And what's coming up next is our second Coen Brothers. Because next week, we are going to watch The Big Lebowski.
I completely forgot.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I want to rewatch it.
Yeah. The Big Lebowski might be my favorite movie ever. So I'm really looking forward to watching it again. I've seen it 50 times. I mean, but as previously discussed with Coen Brothers movies, I didn't get it the first time I saw it. I just watched it and went like, there's some funny stuff. Oh, haha. Like that scene was funny. But the more you watch it and the more you get into the interactions with these guys and this plot, this story that happens it's just goddamn wonderful.
Oh man.
And it is funny. So
I'm gonna wear next time.
very nice. I think I think that the two shirts I have that I could have worn are long since gone.
No.
There are two pieces of dude wardrobe that I had that I would wear with some regularity.
Nice.
And we can talk about them next week. So,
all right.
Until then, Cheesemeisters. Cheers.
Cheers.